Hello, my random viewers, and welcome to Randomly Offensive. Today we are continuing the story of Xiaoyu, but before we continue her story, I need to make a couple announcements about some big changes to my channel. Ever since I turned this channel into a storytelling-only platform, I dived headfirst into the Tekken franchise and started telling the stories of those characters because they were great practice rounds. They were great for me exercising my creativeness and my storytelling, and they were easy to put out on a daily basis while still keeping them good and giving me the knowledge that I needed to know where I had to improve upon. Now, I'm still gonna do Tekken stories, but I'm only a few videos away from this being a Tekken-only channel, and that is not what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to tell more original stories. I'm wanting to tell my own stories, but still good stories, and by doing that, I'm gonna have to stop doing daily content and just post when a script is finished and when I'm finished recording. So absolutely hit that notification bell. That way you are notified when a story is posted. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I can deliver high quality stories instead of high quantities of them. And so with that being said, I am also going to be moving on from Breakfast Wars. I'm unsatisfied with them. I don't like them. I'm not very passionate about them. And so I want to move on to more serious stories that are closer to my heart and that I am more passionate about, and that will be more entertaining for you guys. I might finish Breakfast Wars and I might conclude it with one or two parts in the future if that's something you guys want. But for now, I'm walking away from them, and I'm going to stick with doing Tekken stories when I need an easy, fast story, but I'm also going to start working more on my own original scripts and telling those stories as well. So with that all being said, let's continue the story of Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu sits on the curb on the outside of the 4th King of the Iron Fist tournament, thinking back on what had just happened in the tournament while wondering why Panda has yet to return and where Panda is. And so she rubs her broken arm and massages her bruised muscles and her bruised ribs while thinking back on everything she had just gone through in the 4th King of the Iron Fist tournament, her first round against Law, where Law threw massive, amazing punches with perfectly well executed strikes that were timed almost so perfectly it was like fighting a god. And then she doesn't remember anything of the fight until after it was over and Law was on the ground, bleeding from the mouth and out for the count. She then thinks about the fight between her and Nina, where she gave it everything she could and didn't seem like she could even harm Nina Williams. And out of nowhere, Nina taps out. While Xiaoyu is getting praises and chants from the audience, it seemed like Nina's spirit had been broken, and so Xiaoyu wonders what happened when she fought Law, and just what kind of mental trauma did she cause Nina in the tournament. But then she starts thinking back on her 3rd round, the final match that she had. The 3rd round, the final round before Xiaoyu had a chance to see Heihachi and confirm whether or not he was keeping Jin Kazuma captive. She faced against Kazuha, and every strike she threw at Kazuha, he wouldn't block nor dodge, but they would do no harm. They were as if they were just love taps given to him by a child, and this enraged Xiaoyu. And from that point on, Xiaoyu again, as she sits on the curb, thinking back, can't remember the fight. But then glimpses of her memory comes back throughout the fight, and she remembers delivering massive punches to Kazuha that even she can't believe she'd be capable of, that would cause him to spit out blood, cause his ribs to break, cause his skull to fracture, and Kazuha returning with blows that should have killed her but wouldn't, and Xiaoyu looking into the skies trying to figure out what happened in that fight, what happened with her, what is she capable of, and why can't she remember it? And so, as she looks back on the third round, all she knows is that she had lost to Xiaoyu, failing at her goal. And so then she sees in the distance her panda covered in blood, slowly crawling to her, so she runs to him to make sure he's okay. Xiaoyu runs to Panda and quickly holds him and starts petting him, seeing all of the blood dripping from his body, and she asks him if he's going to be okay, but the panda can only whimper in pain as a response. And so Xiaoyu asks him if he found Jin Kazuma, and the panda slowly nods his head yes. And so Xiaoyu realizes that Heihachi is holding Jin Kazuma captive, and so she looks at Panda, knowing that her best friend, her panda, is about to die. She completely forgets about her goal of saving Jin and starts screaming in the air for help, and starts screaming frantically for someone to come help her panda. And Lee then shows up with Julia and King by his side and tells Xiaoyu that Julia is a great scientist and has experience at saving animals, and to trust the panda's care to her, and Xiaoyu nods in acceptance. And so Julia, with the help of King, hoists up the panda and leaves to go save the panda's life. Lee then looks at Xiaoyu and tells her, I know what your goal is. I know that you want to find Jin Kazuma, and I want to find him too. And if you can help me find my nephew, I will repay you greatly. Xiaoyu looks at Lee. I don't want payment, she says angrily. I just want to find my friend. And so Lee nods at this. Well, Heihachi is getting ready to take on Kazuha in the championship round. But if you hurry in that direction, he points, you can confront Heihachi and possibly save my nephew, he says to Xiaoyu. And so Xiaoyu quickly runs to the area that Lee pointed at. Heihachi had just finished getting in his fighting attire to take on Kazuha in the championship round when Xiaoyu enters the room, and Xiaoyu looks at Heihachi, and Heihachi sees Xiaoyu. What are you doing here, kid? He says to her, and she responds, why? Why do you have Jin Kazuma? Why are you holding your grandson prisoner? She says with a pointing finger, very, very angrily. And so Heihachi sits down and looks at her, and the two of them are now locking eyes without breaking eye contact for one moment. And Xiaoyu decides to continue the conversation. Why are you holding your grandson prisoner? Why did you tell the whole world that he's missing when you've known where he is this entire time? She says with her voice escalating, and now Heihachi finally decides to respond. Because that is the only way to save the world. Have you heard about the devil genes? I tried to kill my own son to stop the devil genes from destroying this planet, and when I failed, Jin Kazuma was born, and now I must eradicate both of them. And Xiaoyu cannot believe what she is hearing, as she stares at Heihachi. "You're gonna kill your own son and your own grandson?" she says. And Heihachi nods. "I must. It is the only way to prevent the prophecy. It is the only way to save the world. I must be a monster. I must be an evil man to do what is necessary to save this planet," he says, now getting passionate and angry, but Xiaoyu doesn't care, and the words he is speaking are absurd, and so she slaps Heihachi across the face. "You're not evil, you're just an idiot," she says, right after the slap to his face, and Heihachi then stands up, intimidating Xiaoyu, scared of what he's going to do after being slapped. "I'm an idiot," he says with a smile. "You've always been so kind-hearted, so sweet. You think there's another option? Well, go ahead, Xiaoyu, tell me, what else can I do to save Jin? What else can I do to save Kazuo? What else can I do to save the world?" And Xiaoyu looks at him. "Well, I don't know, but there's gotta be another way," she says, and Heihachi turns his smile into a frown. "Do you even know what the devil gene is?" "Not exactly," she responds. "Then you have no place telling me what I can and cannot do. You have no place telling me what's right or wrong. I must do what's necessary." And with that, he locks her out of the room. And so, as she walks out of the King of the Iron Fist tournament, she plans to go directly to the dojo to save Jin. However, Lee stops her. "No, you don't want to go there," he says. "And why not?" says Xiaoyu. "Because Jin is going to become awake very soon. And when he does, you want Heihachi and Kazuo to be there, because they'll be the only ones that can stop him from going on a rampage. Because when he wakes up, so does the devil genes." Xiaoyu stares at Lee. "So you want Heihachi and Kazuo to kill Jin?" "Oh, no. They won't be able to kill him. Just stop him. Maybe, perhaps. But if Jin does escape, he's gonna do something so horrible, not only will it destroy this planet, but it'll probably kill him as well. Do you want to stop that?" says Lee as he looks at Xiaoyu. "Yes, of course I want to stop that, if what you say is true," she says. And so Lee walks towards her and puts his hand out for a handshake. However, she does not shake his hand. "What are you wanting me to do?" "Well, I'm wanting you to wait, and I will give you a call. And when I call you, you do exactly what I tell you to do. But right now, I need to find other people that can help you help Jin." She nods at this, and they go their separate ways. Xiaoyu returns to her home and waits for a call from Lee to do what she has to do to save Jin. And while she waits, she sees on the news that Heihachi has been killed in the dojo that Jin was being held captive at, and there's no sign of Jin Kazuma, meaning Jin had survived the explosion that killed Heihachi. And so Xiaoyu then begins to tear up because she knows Heihachi was a bad man, but she also knows that Heihachi was trying to do what was right. And meanwhile, Lee goes to the house of martial law and Paul Phoenix and knocks on the door. However, he does not wait for them to open, and he walks in. "Paul, Marshall, how are you guys doing?" he says with open arms, and Paul looks at him. "What do you want?" "Well, I was wondering if you wanted to save the world," he says. And Paul Phoenix looks at martial law, who is in the same room. "Do we want to save the world?" says Paul Phoenix. And martial law looks at his calendar that is covered in things he has to do to keep the restaurant chain and his dojos running. I don't know. I'm kind of busy." Paul Phoenix looks back at Lee. "We're kind of busy," he says. as if Lee cannot hear martial law. What do you mean you're too busy, responds Lee. I'm offering you guys a chance to save the world. There is no calendar with things to do if there's no world to have the calendar in. He says. Paul Phoenix looks at martial law. He has a point. Nah, saving the world's kinda hard, says martial law. So Paul Phoenix then looks back at Lee. Saving the world's kinda hard, he says, still acting as if martial law is in a different room. And so Lee looks at the two of them. Well, what can I do to convince you guys to help me save the world, he says. And Paul Phoenix looks at him and quickly responds, free drinks for a year. Free alcohol for a whole year. And Lee thinks about this and realizes how stupid of a request this is, but it's such a small request for the world being at stake, and so he gladly accepts. All right, I will buy a bar and I will serve you guys myself. So here's the plan, he says as he pulls out multiple sheets of paper, lining them across the dining room table. And after he talks of a plan with Paul and martial law, he then begins getting busy, talking with Nina Williams, Yoshimitsu, Brian Fury, and Dr. Boskanovich, as he is trying to figure out a way to stop the prophecy of the devil genes destroying the planet. And Xiaoyu finally gets a phone call from Lee. Xiaoyu finally gets a phone call from Lee, but before she has a chance to even say hello, Lee quickly says over the phone, I am sending you coordinates to a restaurant, and you must go to those coordinates at the exact time I tell you in the text. Make sure you're there. And he hangs up the phone quickly. So Xiaoyu follows those exact instructions and goes to the restaurant, and she is greeted by her panda, giving her a huge bear hug, and Panda has made a full recovery, and Xiaoyu is happy that her panda is still alive. As she looks around the restaurant, she sees huge groups of people, and in that group of people, she sees her master Wong, Feng Wei, Paul Phoenix, martial law, Julia, and Yoshimitsu, along with herself and Panda. And on the top of a bar in the center of the restaurant stands Lee with his arms fully extended. My dear friends, thank you so much for coming, and this will be the most important day of your entire lives, he says with his arms still fully extended and standing up tall and strong as he speaks to the crowd. This plan is going to save the world, and every single one of you guys have a huge part to play. He points to Paul Phoenix. You, my friend, must beat Brian Fury and make sure you win. I already have it set up so that you take on Brian Fury in the first round of the 5th King of the Iron Fist tournament. It takes place in a week, so go train and get ready, he says. However, Paul looks at him confused. How is me defeating a serial killer in a tournament gonna save the world? And Lee looks at him. Well, it has a huge part of saving the world, and in order to save the world, we cannot have Brian being a part of the equation. He must be getting rid of. You need to destroy his ego, destroy his pride. You need to break that man, and I will deal with the rest. So Paul nods and leaves to go train for this battle that he has now been sent into. Lee then looks at the rest of the crowd. Alrighty, now with the simple-minded brute out of the way, let's talk about the real plan, he says as he looks at the rest of the crowd. Martial law getting angry that his friend was just insulted. Marshall, says Lee, you have a huge part to play. You are going to be selling hot dogs from your restaurant to the crowd. However, you have got to inject just a little bit of a chemical that I'm giving you into each hot dog and make sure as many people consume this as possible, he says. Marshall, confused at this. What is that chemical gonna do? He says. And Lee says it's going to frighten them because Jin must win this tournament, and when he does, it's going to start World War III, and we have to make sure World War III happens. The rest of the crowd is now silent at this, and Xiaoyu blurts out, "What do you mean, World War III? Jin Kazuma is going to start World War III, says Lee. World War III must happen for us to save the world. It has to happen, and we must protect Jin Kazuma. Now, I already have Kazuha figured out. Nina is going to be the one to beat Kazuha. So, martial law, you have got to do this for me. And he gives martial law a small vial of packets of chemicals. Now, half a teaspoon in each hot dog should do, so this stuff will last a long time. And he kicks martial law out of the restaurant. He then looks at the rest of the crowd. Yoshimitsu, my dear friend, you need to be on Brian Fury alert. After he is beaten by Paul Phoenix, it is up to you to keep him under control, and that is your one and only duty. And so Yoshimitsu leaves the restaurant, and now it is just Wong, Fang, Xiaoyu, Julia, and Panda. Julia, says Lee, I am sending you into the G Corporation as a mole, and you will feed me all the information you can get. Do we have a deal on that? And Julia nods, and she leaves the restaurant. He looks at the remaining group of Xiaoyu, Panda, Fang, and Wong. Now, he says, as he sits down on the bar comfortably, the rest of the plan hinges on you guys being successful. I am going to be a ticket agent at the 5th King of the Iron Fist tournament, and I will sneak you guys in to the tournament, and you guys must not be seen. You will be disguised as one of the crowd members, and you will watch the first round. When the first round is over, that is when you guys must start following Jin Kazuma. You guys must take out any threat to Jin and keep Jin Kazuma alive, and by any means necessary, make sure he wins this tournament, because we need him to be the head of the Mishima Zaibatsu. And so the rest of the group nods at this, and as they leave, Xiaoyu stays in the restaurant with just her, Panda, and Lee. Why are we helping Jin start World War III, and how do you know that's going to happen? She says, and Lee looks at her. You have all been pawns, my friend. Xiaoyu, not knowing what that means. No games, no riddles. Tell me what's happening, she says. And Lee looks at her. There is a threat that Jin Kazuma is aware of, and the only way to lure this threat out is by starting World War III, and Jin is going to do that. I know he is, but we must make sure that he is victorious in this tournament to make that happen. We must protect Jin. And since that is your goal, that's your end game, who better to have on this team than you? I know you'll do whatever it takes to protect him, says Lee. And so Xiaoyu leaves, and on the day of the 5th King of the Iron Fist tournament, they sneak in to the Mishima Zaibatsu tournament through the same line that Lee is the ticket agent, and he sneaks them into the crowd, and now they have infiltrated the 5th King of the Iron Fist tournament. And that is where I will have to leave this video off. I know that there wasn't a whole lot of meat to the bones of this video. It was mostly a setup for the rest of Xiaoyu's story, while also setting up other characters. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because Xiaoyu has been a part of so many character arcs for so many characters. I had to set up an entire video, an entire script, that will allow her to be a part of those said character story arcs within the continuity of the Tekken franchise, since most of her stories are either fan art, fan fiction, or comic books that just don't actually go along with the video game's continuity. And so with that being said, thank you so much for listening. If you liked and enjoyed, please do hit the like and subscribe button. Don't get hit by a meteor, and take care of yourselves. Bye.